Well, the other big political story today is that a cabinet expansion is expected this Sunday, and we are hearing that it will be at 12 noon. Some of the big names that we're hearing about at the moment is that Goa Chief Minister Manohar Parrikar is going to be the new Defence Minister. Nitin Gadkari, the Transport Minister, may be divested of his portfolio of rural development, which he's been holding on to since Mr. Gopinath Munde's death. Nirmala Sitharaman, currently Minister of State in the Commerce Ministry, is likely to be promoted as Commerce Minister and could be divested of the finance portfolio, which is expected to go to Jayant Sinha, Mr. Yashwant Sinha's son, who has a good background in economics. And Smriti Irani, we're hearing, who is currently the HRD Minister, could possibly be shifted to the INB Ministry. Very interesting if that does happen. Much of this, of course, in the realm of speculation. Shahid Siddiqui, Aarti Jared still with us. Nirja Chaudhary and Sankarshan Thakur also join us to speculate further. And let me ask Nirja first. Does this tally with what you're hearing? Just add to this list or subtract? I mean, any surprises?
They're talking also about the states which are going to the polls. Jharkhand, of course, Jayant Sinha, Yashwant Sinha's son, who might come in as MOS Finance, if Nirmala Sitharaman may get upgraded as Commerce Minister. I mean, like before any cabinet reshuffle, the grapevine is agog with names. Whether or not it will happen remains to be seen, because this government is very, very tight on leaks of information, and very little is coming out. Few people know what's going to happen. But I think the fact that the Prime Minister is actually going in for a reshuffle as they enter the 6th month of government shows that he wants to signal that it's a purposeful government. He doesn't want ministers to hold dual charge, finance and defense.
Many of them are.
And many of them are very important portfolio. Finance and defense by Arun Jaitley.
Yeah.
If Manohar Parrikar has agreed to come and become defense minister, so that gets taken care. Nitin Gadkari, by the way, at one time was being thought of, it was said, as defense minister. But then all those MLAs who gathered at Nagpur and demanded that he become the chief minister, I think that has probably scotched his chances.
Interesting choice of Manohar Parrikar, though. Sankarshan, what do you think? Do you think why do you think Manohar Parrikar, is the chosen one for this portfolio?
How am I to tell you? I mean, let me start with a disclaimer, Nidhi, that more or less we have our own authority on this. I mean, we are speaking from sources, from what we know. So we are the most authoritative person. That the Prime Minister hasn't spoken. In fact, when he did speak 2 days ago, speaking, in an informal chat with editors, he is believed to have behaved in a manner as if, there is no chance of a cabinet reshuffle happening anywhere soon. Oops. He said, "Samay kahan hai?" He has to travel abroad, then Parliament comes. So he discounted any of this. And here we are speculating very hard on something that might happen on Sunday. Fair enough. A lot of things, such things happen because of leaks and speculation and inspired leaks. How am I, Nidhi, to be in a position, frankly, to tell you?
The question then about the need for there to be a rejig, because Sankarshan, you would admit that, like Nirja was pointing out, that you have many ministers holding more than one portfolio.
Fair enough, yes.
And you had, for instance, Mr. Jaitley, who's also unwell, holding both finance and defense. Mr. Gadkari is holding so many of them. And, there have been some ministers who've not exactly been inspiring, in their positions. So, this is something, do you believe this is something that actually should have happened earlier?
I'm just wondering whether the idea of this so-called super government with, fewer ministers holding multiple charges, there is a rethink that it hasn't really worked, and that, it was also linked to the idea of, minimum government, maximum governance kind of slogan, and it hasn't worked. And then now Mr. Modi has come to a position where really he has to do a classical old style expansion of his cabinet and distribute probably, more rationally the portfolios among many more people than he had in the first round. Also, there are, as Nija said, elections coming. You'll see inductions from Bihar as well, probably Giriraj Singh. All this is speculation. Let me keep adding. But there is, I think, a revision of the idea of super government. I don't know whether to call this a failure. We'll be able to sort of assess this better once it has happened on Sunday, as most of us are speculating. But let's wait till Sunday and then pronounce on what might have been a failure and what now is going to be put into place.
Shahid Siddiqui, do you agree with that? That perhaps this whole idea of the super government, there may be a rethink on that, because you keep reading reports, for what they're worth, that many ministers are overworked, and with multiple portfolios, it's become very difficult.
Nidhi, I don't know what the real idea is, whether the Modi has changed his idea of a small, very effective government, or what has happened. But I welcome this. If this happens on Sunday or soon, then I welcome it, because that's what should happen. In today's times and today's complicated, dealings in every ministry, you can't hold two ministries, and then if you want to make substantial changes, they should be done in the very first year of your government, so that you can put things in place and go on from there, implement your programs in the next 4 years, so that by the time you end with your term, you have implemented a lot of things which you had planned. Because in mid-term or at the fag end of your term, you make these changes. They are political changes, not administrative changes. So I think this is the right time for Mr. Modi to make changes if he really wants to, or bring in new people if he really wants to do it. But who are we to really say what actually is going to happen this Sunday or next Sunday or whenever it happens?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no crystal ball. Aarti, on this issue of people holding more than one portfolio, for instance, on the defense minister's issue, Arun Jaitley, I remember, had said right at the beginning that within 30 days you will have a full-time defense minister. That didn't happen. Yeah. He, of course, was unwell, and you had, very serious issues that the country was dealing with, whether it was ceasefire violations and so on.
Sure.
And for so long, we've not had a full-time defense minister.
Well, see, I don't know about all the super government and, things like that, whether there's a rethink or no rethink. The fact is, Nidhi, traditionally, there are two things that guide cabinet formation. One, of course, is merit, where you look for the right person for the right job. The other is politics, where you accommodate people who are political heavyweights in your party, where you try to give some kind of representation to region, caste, gender, and so on and so forth, so that you have a balanced representation in your cabinet. What happened at the beginning was that he made a small cabinet, because I think Modi was new to Delhi, he was new to this whole, government at the center, and I think he wanted to settle down, find his feet, have an assessment of what he really needs, what are the kind of, imperatives that will make him take his decisions. And I think after 5 months into the job, he probably feels that he has a good assessment and a good grip. And therefore, he can undertake the, the expansion that is really needed. I mean, you cannot run a government the size of the government of India, the size of a country like India, with just 45 ministers. It's not possible.
So, Neerja, do you think that that whole idea of a super PMO, it's in particular the PM's office, which is very powerful, it is a huge PMO actually compared to other PMOs. Do you think that's worked? That's the question. With so much power centralized in that one ministry and that one office.
I think it's too early to make that judgment, and I'm told that it may be further, increased, made more powerful. But I would watch the cabinet reshuffle on Sunday for whether Mr. Modi promotes the performers
and removes the non-performers,
and removes the deadwood, what is called the deadwood, the non-performers. Whether he takes people with charges against them, because there were several who were brought in the first round who had charges. There was somebody with the rape charges also. That kind of a thing, whether he takes a firmer stand.
From Rajasthan, yeah.
And then also there was, those belonging to the political families, their children he kept out of the first round. Now, does he take them in? If Jayant Sinha is coming, Anurag Thakur's name is there, Dushyant Scindia, Rajesh Scindia, will these people be taken in? If not, then what is the signal that he wants to
Who do you
give?
think are the non-performers, though? If you guys had to, assess how the government's performed, I'll start with you, Neerja. Honestly,
I think it's really too early to judge who's a performer and who's a non-performer.
But I think the PM would have a very good idea of
I think rural development has suffered.
Yeah,
Rural
Sankarshan.
development has suffered.
Yeah.
That's one ministry I do see, clearly under Gadkari's additional charge. It has
rural development.
Yeah.
Because you need a full-time minister.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about a ministry. I'm not talking minister specific. but rural development has suffered, and I think it's going to go to.
But Sankarshan, do you believe that the super PMO has worked well, reaching that 6-month mark?
You know, Nidhi, you were asking this question about, you know, I don't see any decentralization happening as a result of this cabinet expansion, of the manner in which the Prime Minister and his office have come to control government functioning. I mean, he is holding regular meetings with secretaries of Government of India, and they are empowered to reach out straight to him. So he's actually, you know, what should I say? You know, he's actually bypassed ministers and empowered bureaucrats to come straight talk to him, and you know, even before things go to the cabinet notes all first go to, I mean, they don't come directly to the cabinet, they first go to the cabinet secretariat. I mean, that's the way the new
absolutely,
system functions.
And I think that pretty much sums up, you know, the fact that the power has largely been centered with the Prime Minister's office, and less with ministers, and you know, more with bureaucrats directly. Shahid Siddiqui, last word to you. Would you be willing to stick your neck out and say who you think have been the outstanding ministers and those who've been just average?
No, I'll say it's too early, but yes, Defence Ministry has suffered because Mr. Jaitley couldn't really focus on it, and at a time when we are having problems with Pakistan and even with China, and we need to revamp the whole ministry. Ministry has been suffering for last so many years, in fact. So Defence Ministry needs a lot of focus. And secondly, what I believe is that the style of Mr. Narendra Modi is to keep tap on everything, and he will be a super Prime Minister, of course, and his PMO will be a super PMO. But he will give, you know, distribute power to others, but he will keep a constant, you know, tap on most of these ministers and ministries and the officials, and he will be directly in touch with all of them. What we have seen in Gujarat, his style of functioning in Gujarat has been that he takes decisions, gives responsibility, and then expects, you know, results. And that's what he does. And there are people who keep a constant tab on what is being done in a particular ministry. So I don't see much change in that. But yes, of course, new ministers may come, some ministers may go. But that won't really matter much. Ultimately,
well, this has been an outstandingly speculative conversation, and I've thoroughly.
Thank you for getting us into it.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this, because we're always looking for a headline. So really, this is one of the most unique debates we've ever had.
But you know, Nidhi, I just don't want to say one thing. That, you know, whatever happened at the border, it's not the Defence Minister who takes decisions on what our response should be. It's actually the Prime Minister, because that concerns the country's security.
But you still need a full-time Defence Minister.
Secondly, it's not that the Defence Ministry has not been active. They've been making purchases. They've moved in for privatization, for FDI.
Yes,
so a lot of work has been done. A lot of work has been done. So, you know, the point is, you know, it raises questions, you know, that do you really need a full-time Defence Minister? I mean, technically, yes, you do. But if decisions are being taken in the PMO and you have a super heavy PMO, then, you know, do you, I mean, actually, with the way you were describing it, we don't need a cabinet expansion at all. We can run the government exactly like this.
Exactly what I'm saying. Somewhat disagree with that. Defense is not only about procurement. It's true that the Defence Ministry has made procurements every month.
No, I'm not saying.
It's about a wider vision. It's the political decisions that need to be taken about a subject as vital as that.
I agree with you. All I'm saying is it's not
that it's not that Mr. Jaitley hasn't done well.
The things have been happening in the Defence Ministry.
I think the point is that you're coming now closer to the budget, and at that time, you know, Mr. Jaitley needs to focus his attention on that budget full time. He cannot be doing both jobs, and I think there are ministries that you can merge. There's a case that's been made for whether all the transport ministries should be under one umbrella, all the energy ministries under one umbrella, but whether that is how Mr. Modi will choose to go is anyone's guess. And like Sankarshan said, Sankarshan, if that cabinet reshuffle doesn't happen on Sunday, you can give me a call and yell at me. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us.
Your program doesn't go out Sundays.
But that's okay, I still have to come in. Thanks very much. Thanks very much to all of you.